Welcome to a commentary on the ACW-R. Right now you are probably thinking, why the fuck am I not seeing a gameplay? What the fuck is going on here? Well, do you really need a gameplay to actually analyze the performance of a weapon? Well, let's see if there's maybe a different way to approach this situation. So here we are, ACW-R, data file. Now the first thing that we have here is the rate of fire, and that is the unmodified rate of fire, 900 rounds per minute, which is of course not the real rate of fire. And since the developers do not want to share information on how to calculate the real rate of fire from this base unmodified rate of fire, the only thing you basically can do is taking times. Going in game, firing the weapon, taking the time, seeing how much time you need to empty a magazine, and then calculate what the rate of fire is. And from what I have seen so far is the rate of fire accounts for plus minus 600 rounds per minute, like basically all other assault rifles that have the same unmodified rate of fire of 900 rounds per minute. So yeah, so much for the rate of fire. Nothing fancy there. I mean, it's not a flamethrower like the FAMAS, and it's also not a slowpoke like the L85A2 when it comes to rate of fire. It fires fully automatic, which you can see from this number here. 2 stands for fully automatic, 1 stands for burst fire, and 0 stands for all weapons where you have to pull the trigger or click the mouse for each shot, which for example would be bolt action sniper rifles, semi-automatic sniper rifles, pump action shotguns. Now this line applies to burst weapons only and determines how many rounds are fired per burst, so that has no importance for this weapon, and batch size determines how many bullets are fired per shot, and the 1 determines that for each time you click the mouse, 1 bullet exits the magazine. So nothing special here. It fires 1 bullet per shot. And just for the sake of fun, it is able to produce 10 rounds at the same time in the world, which means you cannot have more than 10 rounds alive at the same time, which is not really an issue because your first rounds easily have vanished before you are even able to reach 10. So what do we have here? Here's the ammo component. Yeah, that's not really something I even would have to read out. That's actually all self-explanatory. 3 magazines, 24 rounds per magazine, and a reload time of 4.9 seconds. And you can replenish your ammo from ammo boxes. Yay! So among assault rifles, this is actually pretty long reload time, coupled with above average magazine size, so it kind of balances itself out. Long reload time with quite good magazine capacity, which means you can fire for quite a long time, but then you have to make sure that you have enough time for the reload. Okay, here we have the recoil. Well, what to say about that one? The first thing that definitely comes to mind is horizontal recoil, because that one appears to be quite low when compared to other assault rifles. Vertical recoil here is pretty standard, nothing special about that one. And the zoom modifier is pretty default too. Most assault rifles use a zoom modifier of 0.58, which in other words means you have 58% of hipfire recoil when aiming down sight. And when putting that into perspective and actually comparing it among some other stocks, you can easily see that the stabilized stock is superior. Well, why is it so good? Because we have that horizontal recoil. Here's a rightwards recoil indicated by the negative thingy, the minus sign, and here we have the leftwards recoil. And the stabilized dog adds 0.45 to the left value and subtracts 0.45 from the right value. Which means for hipfire you already have a recoil of 0.25 degree to the left and right. Yeah. And when aiming on side and applying the zoom modifier, there you even have a recoil of 0.145 degree to the left / right. Yeah, it's even when compared to Nemesis stock, it's almost double as good. So stabilized stock is a clear winner for recoil because it reduces the recoil, that random recoil that goes to the left and right the most. So the biggest reduction of the randomness, and yeah, you basically only have to deal with the vertical recoil then, which of course receives no reduction like with the tactical or Nemesis stock. But since you don't have to worry about the horizontal recoil, which is far more important, you basically only have to drag down your mouse and not actually worry about re-aiming for horizontal recoil. So yeah, long story, short sense. Stabilized stock is the best stock for recoil. End of discussion. Okay, now that we have recoil covered, let's move on to the deviation. So first, for values, determine the initial deviation for hipfire and ADS. And of course, that are just the raw values, and we have to apply the formula to actually get to something that we can use, which is what we have right here. Yeah, and what to say? The initial deviation of the ACW-R does not really differ much from other assault rifles. It has a very usable deviation for both hipfire and ADS, pretty much as a good overall standard assault rifle deviation. But there's not really much difference to other assault rifles. So if you were to have to look at initial ADS and hipfire deviation alone, that actually would be no argument to buy this weapon. Yeah, and to give you an example, here we have the Skyle, and the only value that is different here is the MinDev value. Here we have 0.35 and here we have 0.38, which results in a slightly worse hipfire and ADS deviation, but not by much. And to pick another example, here we have the AK. that is 0.36 compared to 0.35, so almost no difference. And to comment on the actual deviation values for hipfire, that is pretty much fine. Like a deviation of below 1 degree is pretty much all you need for effective hipfire. Some of the submachine guns are even a bit better. And for ADS, it's not the best deviation among weapons, but it's enough for most regular encounters that you will have in the game. Unless you're planning to do some 150 meters M145 range scope magic. Okay, next up, firing deviation. Here we have the max gain of 1.3 degree, a gain threshold of 0.33 degree, and a recovery per frame of 0.095. And that's actually quite a good relation to for assault rifles when it comes to deviation settling. I will also compare to some other assault rifles later on. And to settle single shots, it takes 3.47 frames, rounded down. Here we have the ADS time, 0.2 seconds like all other assault rifles. So yeah, nothing special to say about that one. It's a standard ADS time of 0.2 seconds, and it's enough for basically any situation. Here we have the zoom on ADS. That one is the same as with all other assault rifles too. Yeah, and there's not really much of a zoom for ADS. A magnification of 1.2 rounded. So yeah, you can aim down sight in any situation, and you actually won't have any problem with the magnification, unlike for example with pistols, where most of them have a zoom about 1.25, which is actually quite a bit, especially in close range. Okay, here we have the velocity, 600 meters per second, which is a slight improvement over the standard velocity of assault rifles, light machine guns and submachine guns, with a velocity of 550 meters per second. So yeah, it will be a bit easier to engage targets on long range, especially when they are moving. And it takes 0.4 seconds to switch to this weapon. So yeah, it's actually recommended to have the weapon drawn when going into an encounter, because that, although it might not sound like much, that time can probably be the cause of your death when your opponent is reacting fast enough. Okay, here we have the time to live, the damage, and the range segments. The bullet lives for 0.4 seconds and travels with a velocity of 600 meters per second. So to calculate the absolute range, ACW-R has an absolute range of 240 meters without any velocity increasing barrels, which is pretty much enough for all your sniping needs. Okay, and here we have the damage. We have damage of 28 to 30 on initial range of 0 meters, which drops down to damage of 22 to 26 on a range of 18 meters, and that again drops down linear to a damage of 18 to 22 on a range of 28 meters. And now let's take a look at attachments, especially range extending barrels and ammunition attachments. It probably sounds pretty interesting to use close quarter ammunition and a close barrel, because with close quarter combat ammunition you have initial minimum damage of 34, which would be enough for a kill on a target with 100 hit points. But yeah, the problem is the linear damage drop. Remember? As soon as you have a distance of greater than 0 meters to the enemy, your damage will start to drop. And in other words, as soon as you have any kind of distance to your enemy, you will have a damage of less than 34, and that means you will lose your 3-shot kill guarantee. Of course, you still have a chance to kill a target in 3 shots up to a certain range, but I'm not working with chances. It's either I have a guarantee or I don't use it. And of course, you happily forget to mention the fact here that there are also players running around with 105 or even 110 HP. So yeah, close quarter combat ammunition in combination with close barrel for a 3-shot kill on a target with 100 HP is not viable. Or in other words, it does not even matter if you use a close barrel here, because your 3-shot kill is only valid up to 0 meters. As you can see, here's the ACW-R with only close quarter combat ammunition, which means a standard range, whereas here close barrel brings a buff of 10 meters for medium range and a buff of 5 meters for long range. But as you can see from the formula used, you only have that guaranteed damage of 34 up to a range of 0 meters. And now let's take a look at the next best minimum damage value, which would be 28 for a guaranteed 4-shot kill on all targets including 110 HP. As you can see, without close barrel and only close quarter combat ammunition, that guaranteed kill is valid up to a range of 12 meters, and with a close barrel it's valid up to a range of 18 meters. And yeah, of course that is a difference, but personally that's not something I would use. Like, that's a 6 meters difference, and that's not something I look out for when playing the game. Well, if that is a difference that is important to you, and you think that actually makes it worth to use a close barrel, then yeah, go ahead, no problem. But then the other thing is that close quarter combat ammunition is not even that much of a good attachment to use. And to understand that, let's actually take a look at the attachments. Okay, here we have close quarter combat ammunition, adds 6 damage to initial min max damage, 3 to medium max damage, and the same thing to long damage. And then we have number 12, Stingray magazines, 5 damage for initial, +5 for +4 for medium, and also +4 for long damage. And the only drawback that you have is that you will have a slight reduction for the range segments. But on the bright side, you will also have a buff to ammunition capacity. Yeah, now let's compare that. Here we have ACW-R with Stingray magazines. That means the medium range is reduced by 4 meters as opposed to the normal 18, and the long range is reduced by 7 meters as opposed to the normal 28. And here we have the damage values for the for Stingray magazines, minimum damage values, because that's what you're going to use for guarantees. So, and now when comparing the same minimum damage of 28 between close quarter combat ammunition and Stingray, you will see for without close barrel for Stingray magazines that guarantees valid up to a range of 10 meters, and with close quarter combat ammunition up to 12 meters. So that's a difference of 2 meters for a guaranteed 4-shot kill. And on top of that, with the Stingray magazines, you get better long-range damage and more ammunition capacity. And when we take a look at the comparison with close barrel, it's even the difference is even smaller. Like here we have guaranteed kill 4-shot kill up to 17 meters, and here up to 18 meters. So that's even only a difference of 1 meter. So Stingray magazines are actually quite lethal also for close quarter combat, but wait a second, what do we have here? We have a minimum damage of 18 for long range. And what did we have here? A minimum damage of 4 for long range. That means, yeah, minimum damage of 22 with Stingray magazines. And wait a second. Perfect! I have a 5-shot kill, guaranteed 5-shot kill against even 110 HP targets. So it looks like Stingray magazines are actually quite the thing to use here. Of course, Viper magazines are also a viable attachment to use here, since they also bring a buff to ammunition capacity with 6 rounds instead of 8, and they also bring a buff to damage and enough for long range to have a guaranteed 5-shot kill on all targets. But yeah, the best ammunition attachment for the ACW-R is without doubt Stingray magazines. So if you have access, or if you have bought them before they went into storage, go ahead and use them. So yeah, and as for barrels, either use the close-in barrel, especially in combination with Stingray magazines, if that difference of 7 meters for a guaranteed 4-shot kill is important for you, or here that difference of 6 meters in combination with close quarter combat ammunition. And if you're more of a velocity fan and like to engage on long range, you might actually use a precision barrel, because that increases the velocity by 254 assault rifles, which means you will have a total velocity of 850 meters per second, and it will make it a bit easier to engage targets on long range because of the, once again, 4 advantages of faster travel time, less need to lead targets, less drop, and also higher absolute range if you're going for that long range shots. Okay, to sum it up, attachment recommendations: stabilize stock for recoil, and if you want more of a close quarter roll, even with a stock, then balance stock, because that one improves those values here, the firing deviation, less max gain, less gain per shot, and higher recovery per frame. Yeah. Ammunition attachments: Stingray magazines if you have them, as an alternative, Viper magazines. And barrel, either close-in barrel or precision barrel. And the last thing that I'm gonna do here is to actually compare the ACW-R to some other assault rifles, so you can get another view as to how this weapon will perform. So for a start, let's pick the Sky and make a side-to-side comparison. Okay, 900 rounds per minute, the unmodified one, which accounts for real rate of fire of plus minus 600 rounds per minute. Also both are fully automatic and fire 1 bullet per shot. Then we have ammo capacity and reload time, 3 magazines for both. ACW-R is a bit better here with the higher magazine capacity, and as a downside only has a slightly longer reload time. Yeah, as you can see here, that's actually quite interesting. The ACW-R beats the Scar-L for recoil. One of the vertical recoil borders is a bit smaller, and actually both recoil borders for horizontal recoil are smaller. So yeah, ACW-R is the winner for recoil. As mentioned earlier, for the deviation comparison, ACW-R has a slight advantage over the Scar-L here with that min-def value of 0.35 instead of 0.38. But yeah, that's actually not that much of a difference, and as mentioned earlier, initial deviation is not the reason you should pick this weapon. Okay, now let's move on. Yeah, same zoom delay, same zoom, so nothing to say here. Slight advantage when it comes to velocity. And for damage, they're actually quite similar. Scale has a slightly lower initial damage, but slightly higher long range damage. So yeah, those two weapons are actually quite similar, and in essence, if I would have to compare them, the ACW-R is a slightly buffed version of the Scar-L. Yeah, and to compare the firing deviation, previously we had 3.47 frames that it needs to recover deviation for single shots, and for the Scar-L, yeah, we have here slightly worse gain per shot and also slightly worse recovery. So yeah, that's also one aspect where the ACW-R is better. It settles deviation better than the SCAL. So, all in all, this is a nice all-rounder weapon. Perhaps even a bit better than what we had so far as all-rounder weapons. But it's not going to melt people in close range like the FAMAS, and it's also not to snipe everything like the L85A2 on long range. And it's quite good, but it's actually not a reason to pre-buy this instead of using SCAL or AEK when you're just starting out. And just to actually mention an advantage here of a low-level weapon, the AK is way more flexible with that shorter reload time. So it's not better in all aspects, and it's the SCAL and the AK are definitely still viable choices for all-rounder weapons. So yeah, that's it for this wall of speech. Until next time, goodbye.